This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeremy Wolf.
Hello, friends, family, great community. We are back with another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. And I often say that, but this is a very special guest because he is a neighbor and he is a local business owner. And I recently featured his lovely family in Cooper City Living Magazine. They were the cover story. I'm here with David Amador. David is with Midtown Dental Studio. David, how you doing, brother?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jeremy. It's great to be on the podcast, man. Just want to say thank you so much for inviting to jump on here and get to speak to the community. Excited.
Yeah, brother. Happy to have you. And thanks, as always, to our listeners for tuning in to learn more about our great community and the businesses that serve us. So without further ado, I say this, I've had quite a few dentists on the podcast as of late, and I always say this, right? Everybody knows what a dentist does, but each dental practice has their own flair, if you will. So why don't you start off by talking a little bit about Midtown Dental Studio and your business specifically?
Yeah, no worries, man. No, our office is totally different in the sense, and everybody says that. So you hear now the big talk about health and the food crisis in the sense of what we're eating, in the sense of preventative care. Etiology. In dental school, we are taught one thing. There's a problem, fix it. But we're not really taught on how to prevent it. So something we do in Midtown and we're very big on is prevention. So we go deep dive, and before even doing anything, when a patient comes in and we start going over their medical history. Do they have diabetes? Do they have sleep apnea? Have they been tested for sleep apnea? Why? Because a patient that's 30 years old and has grinded a substantial amount of their front teeth down, there are key signs of what could be causing this. Just doing a night guard as an example does not fix the problem if we don't look back into the past and what's the etiology. And the etiology means what's the cause. What sets us apart is we are always trying to help the patient prevent the need for dentistry. So that comes with education, assessing what the etiology is to each person. And then there's a great book that has nothing to do with dentistry, but it has to do great with all business. It's Be Our Guest. So it was written by a manager that ran the whole thing for Disney for a long time. And it's their training program in the sense of customer care. All dentists have the same thing. We all do the same things, some more than others. We're providing a service, but how can we create the experience to bring down that level and threshold of anxiety? And that's what we really stand for here, really to bring down the anxiety, try to prevent future care, and that's what Midtown is all about. And my partner's my wife, the other dentist, and we have an amazing team here. So we're grateful for the community.
Yeah, bringing down the anxiety. That I think people have a certain level of anxiety associated with going to the dentist. You mentioned Disney and Be Our Guest. I guess that's a Beauty and the Beast frame.
No, you know what, man? It is. That's the name of the book, and it literally goes through everything that makes them who they are in the sense of that customer service, like how they play everything out and that detail. We take so much of that into our office right when you walk in, from the moment you call, from the moment you walk in, from the moment you get your tour, from the moment you sit down. Everything is trying to level that experience to bring down the level of anxiety. Because Jeremy, I'm gonna say this. One of the things that you talk to any dentist, they will say, one of the first things a patient will say, it doesn't matter if we know them or not, they'll say, listen, I know they'll take this against you, but I hate you. I'm telling you, imagine, Jeremy, the first time I met you, I said, I hate you. And it's not you, I just hate dentists. Mm-hmm. What did I do? I haven't even spoken yet.
Yeah.
And it's because of the anxiety that people have from from the past, and whatever else has happened or things like that.
Yeah, something about, and I've been there before, as many other folks have. I've had some rather questionable and unsettling experiences at the dentist, and it's left a lasting impression on me. So when I go in, I do feel incredibly anxious. Even if I'm going, like you said, I'm going to somebody I know, there's just a certain level of anxiety playing into the equation. That's not, but I appreciate what you're doing there and talking about the preventative side of all this. Because, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I love hearing that from medical professionals because we're so hardwired in our society to just fix the problem that somebody's having and not address the underlying root cause of these problems. And a lot of it leads back to the hard things, right? Lifestyle, diet, like all exercise, all this stuff that we need to do to form daily habits to be healthy. If you don't do those types of things, you're more likely to have problems. So I love that you're talking about this. I have a good friend of mine who's also a dentist over at I don't know if Alex Semide from Semide Dental. So he also preaches very heavily upon the preventative side, and not just that, also this connection between oral health and your entire systemic care, because it's all like the mouth is the gateway, as he says, to the rest of the body. So I appreciate you handling your practice in that way and raising awareness on that. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, without a doubt. Right now, we're trying to, I'm doing a whole campaign right now. Everything nowadays is on social media. So right now, we're trying to do a correlation between health and basically oral environment. Patient has diabetes, and the number one thing they'll always say is, but I don't know why my sugar is high or why I have cavities. I don't eat sugar. There's a concept there. That's where the lack of nutritional education is. A carbohydrate is broken down into sugar in your saliva. So right there's your sugar. So if you are controlling, and you're diabetic, and you are controlling your blood sugar by your diet. So if you're using like the level or one of the glucose with constant monitoring, and you're able to monitor and keep your glucose down, then your diet has changed, which that means will correlate to a very high correlation to decreased cavities, less problems, less breakdown.
It's so easy, isn't it? Why can't we just eat healthy and exercise all the time? It's so easy to get caught up in our fast-paced society. I say it all the time. I'll go through a week with the family where I cook every night and we all sit down together and have great meals. And I said, I just need to do this all the time. And then the next week it's eating out every night. It's so difficult.
When I grew up, I used to be 300 plus pounds growing up.
Were you really?
Oh yeah, it was just the diet that I ate. It was always carbs and the abundance of it and frequency. But at the same time, we have to look at our past, same thing. And once the 2190 rule, I always talk about with my team.
2190 rule?
Yeah, so it takes 21 days to form a habit, 90 days to set it.
Okay.
So we're too quick to, we're going to go clean for this, or I'm going to try to change. So it's like little nuances before you know it. If you can get past that 90 days, they become consistent. And then you do it a little different. That's how we were able to change my life around. But it had to do also the same thing with anxiety. Me and my wife both became dentists because both sides of our family, high anxiety patients, hate the dentist, never wanted to go. And it was like, all right, how can we help patients, or how can we help the general public? Just becoming another MD will do so much, but what is a field that everybody hates? And in our family, they hated the dentist. And both of us are charismatic, both of us are good with people, both of us are able to stand in front of a crowd and talk. So it was like, all right, this is a no-brainer. We can change this.
So I wanted to dig into that a little more, because you mentioned that you're in practice with your wife. Did you know each other both before you got into dentistry, or did you meet after the fact? Talk a little bit about the journey that led you up to starting Midway Dental with your wife.
Oh yeah, so I'm just a good old Florida boy, born and raised in the Southwest Ranches in the area. Grew up watching Cooper City go from zero to something. Watched it blow up. I remember going fishing right where back in the day, going fishing all the time where the bonefish is off of Weston Road, and right back there. That was like I'd go back there with my 3-wheeler, and that was like the hidden honey hole, which now you'll see all the birds not golfing, but shooting some balls over a tin cup growing up years ago. But my wife was from Orange County, not Florida, Orange County, California. So we met in dental school. So fun fact, my brother's also a dentist out in Hollywood. And they were the class below me. When my brother started, that's when we met. And we became friends. And then before you know it, the hard conversation came about. Hey, we're living together. Soon going to graduate. I'm going back to Florida. What's the deal here? And fast forward, here we are, man. 2 kids and a thriving business serving the community.
Good stuff, man. So I want to ask you, as somebody that works with your wife, what would you say is one of the most, I'm going to go both sides of the spectrum here, one of the most challenging things about working with your wife, and one of the most, on the other side of that spectrum, one of the most rewarding things about working with your wife?
Challenging thing I would say is like, you got to leave home. Like the kids are giving issues, and there's an issue with how we're trying to the kids. We got a 3 and a 4-year-old, and you got to leave at home. Any of that, because when you walk in the door, the patients come first. And, luckily, just open communication and always working at communication. Like as a husband and wife, success to a relationship is communication. Doesn't matter if it's good, bad.
Yep.
Even the bad stuff has to be said, not bottled up. So since we
100%.
really try to practice at home, no relationship is perfect. I'm going to be honest here, Jeremy. There are times that we ride
Hey.
roller coaster.
My relationship is absolutely perfect. Speak for yourself. I got no problems. None whatsoever.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in quality control and the product is me, and all I'm hearing is like bad things. And then the good things come in. I'm like, all right, I got a 5-star review. The product is doing good.
That's hilarious. I like that.
Because of that conversation and that communication of the two different ways we come together to raise our child and find a common path, it allows us to venture into the office. So when we come into the office, the benefit of that is, since it's two doctors, I will stray more towards the surgical aspect and reconstruction while we both work on etiology, while she'll go into the different aspect of alignment and Botox and cosmetics. So we're both able to complement each other. So then we're able to collaborate on how we can help a patient.
Wow. So I wanted to get into that also, the types of services that you're offering. So it sounds like you're offering kind of soup to nuts. You're running the gamut. You're doing everything. You just mentioned Botox as well.
Yeah. Back in the days, if we digress and we go back like maybe 15 years ago, you would go to a dentist, and if you needed a root canal, you had to go to a specialist. If you needed a tooth taken out, you had to go to a specialist. In this common day, you can go to an oral surgeon. Oral surgeons are only placing a handful of implants in school, depending on where they go. Now they are doing cancer surgeries and everything else. But the majority of things that surgeons are doing are placing implants, doing all on X, and they take the same courses most dentists are doing now. So a lot of things now, what we call in our field is called the super GP, that there's so many courses, super GP, super
general,
where you get out of dental school and you go right back to school. Outside of dental school, me and my wife put into ourselves within the last 4 years, almost $300,000 just in further education, where now it's specific on one thing. Could have been root canals, could have been implants, could have been Botox, could have been fillers, could have been aligners, which is clear braces, specific things that way to help boost the overall community. Because that's where patients usually fall through, is when you say, hey, we're going to refer you to XYZ. Patient leaves, life hits, they don't get the care they need. They come back in, something has broken down because they did not get that service that they needed.
You just mentioned, I thought you said something about Invisalign. So you're doing orthodontic work as well?
Yeah, so we stay within clear aligners. We're actually SureSmile provider, which is like an Invisalign. And we're actually Florida's #1 provider this year. So that became a big deal for us, because that just means it's not so much being the #1 provider for SureSmile, which is a massive company, but it's the fact that we've been able to change so many lives. When we talk about teeth being aligned, it's like your car tires, except we only get one set of tires, the teeth that we have. After that, we're just replacing. So when you have a patient that's 30 years old with crowding everywhere and has shaved down so much of his tooth structure, hey, if we don't fix this, it's only going to get worse. By the time you get to 60, you're talking about no more veneers, a lot of crowns, thousands of dollars that does not last forever.
I wanted to ask you about some of the most common things that you hear in practice from patients in terms of myths or misconceptions that your patients typically have surrounding what you do at your practice.
Oh man, that's a general question. We're gonna have to get a little bit more deep in there, because I can go into like, but doc, I oil pull for 10 minutes. I'm like, you can do that with soap and you get the same results. There's clinical research in there. And luckily this one's calmed down. I'll throw down one that's a misconception that got big on TikTok, was the charcoal toothpaste.
Charcoal toothpaste. Elaborate on that. What is charcoal toothpaste?
So it is a black toothpaste that was really big about 2 years ago, and it has charcoal in it. Charcoal is used for a lot of things, and it's actually beneficial in a lot of different ways, but not to brush your teeth. It does make your teeth white. But imagine if you were to go into your garage or Home Depot and get 60 grit sandpaper. Oh, you're gonna take off all that staining on the outside, but you're going to make the teeth porous where now it picks up more stain. So you're just sanding away your teeth. And sooner or later, the teeth do become yellow because you start wearing into the dentin. Increased sensitivity. So luckily that trend has started to dissipate. But man, we still have patients that'll come in and be like, I like to work on my wife's smile by brushing with charcoal toothpaste. And that's when we need to have a conversation about that. Let's just sit down and let's talk about not needing veneers down the road because of X, Y, Z. And it's just, you see somebody else do it, just like kids, so somebody else does it without a rhyme or reason.
I got one for you. I'm curious here. I know dentists typically push fluoride treatment, and I'm curious about that because if you read about the other side of that on the holistic space and the spiritual community, they talk about fluoride. I've heard fluoride, it closes off your third eye, that kind of thing. Could you talk a little bit about the efficacy of fluoride in treatment and how that works, and maybe kind of steelman the argument that, because I've been curious about this for a while, steelman the argument about how it closes your third eye and all that from the spiritual side?
So the third eye, I cannot speak for that. I can speak about the medical aspect of it. And I can speak like Germany has it as a neurotransmitter. They do not allow it in Germany. In Europe and everywhere else, they do. It's all about the quantity. Like anything in excess is not good. So here it's heavily regulated by the amount of dosage in which you can. Fluoride, how fluoride works is it literally replaces the hydrogen within the actual, so it's hydroxyapatite, which is the foundation of a tooth. And it replaces, when it's placed onto the tooth, it actually helps change the molecular formula to hydroxyfluoride. So basically wrapping it up, it makes the tooth stronger in the sense it decreases the acidity level in which the tooth needs to break down. So why do we use it and why do we recommend it? So yes, there is the whole circle effect where fluoride is put in water and most likely into our water system. So the vegetables you have or things you eat that are clean with it, you're getting it into your system. When you buy bottled water, no, you're not having that. When you use toothpaste, but the issue with toothpaste is most people don't read the instructions. And what do they do right after they brush? They spit it out and then they rinse. So all the benefits in which they would have had is gone. And it's the same thing with hydroxyapatite. So instead of fluoride, there's other ones that use calcium or hydroxyapatite. Any of the medicine that's in there to help with sensitivity or decrease cavities, if you rinse right after you brush, it's gone. So we always recommend floss, rinse, then brush. But back to the conversation of fluoride. The reason we talk about it and we use it is because there are different types of cavity risk. So patients that walk in, and this is straight from the ADA, American Dental Association. And how it goes is either you're high, medium, or low. What would make a person a high risk? Jeremy, if you have had fillings in the past on more than 3 teeth, those sooner or later are going to break down. The question is, do you get 5 years, 10 years, 15 or 20? Does the filling because of the adhesive go bad, or do you get a cavity between the connection of filling and tooth, which is the most common because we didn't address the etiology. So what fluoride does is help fortify that area and decrease the chance of breakdown. Going to the third eye, that I can't answer, but we do recommend it in the sense of use where it's highly regulated on the percentage that's there. It is stronger than in office than if you were to use toothpaste, things like that. And it helps just decrease, because at the end of the day, if you've known anybody that's gone to an orthopedic, and when I'm saying this is I hear it all the time, I just got my knee done. The orthopedic said expect 5 to 10 years for a revision. You know, the word revision, the moment something happens to your tooth, expect to have a revision. The question is, you have the power in your hands to prevent that revision for an extended amount of time.
I'm going to have to dig into that a little more on my own. I don't know what the rationale is behind that, the whole idea of the fluoride affecting the third eye, but I'm going to look into that a little bit further, because I have friends that are big into that space and they tell me, don't use fluoride. I'm like, why not? And they can't really explain exactly why it is. So
you won't find a long-term study stating anything like that. So that's the reason why. So then it becomes either subjective or case-based.
I'm gonna dig into that more, and I'm gonna do another podcast episode with my friend, and we're gonna talk all about that from the other side and see how that goes.
Definitely, man. Hey, and you know what? That's the one thing, the beauty of it, like the beauty of choice and being able to choose what That's a beautiful thing about mind and placebo. And I'm not saying anything else, but like when you believe something and you are set in it, then you know what, you need to follow it, because that can really throw your chi off. That can really throw off your inner core. So without a doubt, if you read something or something, you believe it to that point, you got to follow through with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the pleasure of meeting your wife and your lovely children over at, I think the first time we ran into each other was over at Botanica Organica.
Yeah.
When I was doing a yoga class over there and you were picking up some stuff at the market. At Fruits and Cahoots. Shout out to Fruits and Cahoots and Organica Botanica. Is it Botanica Organica or Organica Botanica? I always confuse it.
I think it's Organic Botanica, because they sell plants there and everything.
Yeah. So one of the wonderful things that I love about our community here in Cooper City is it's very family centered. There's so many kids here. The schools are great. I'm so happy I moved over here. I guess something like 4 years ago. I was just right down the road in Davie, but now just being in this community, there's a certain a feel about Cooper City. Tell us a little bit about your family and your experience here in the community.
Without a doubt, man. Like the easiest way is when we bought the house, it was supposed to be our first transitional house in Cooper City. And we bought it in 2019. We're like, this will be an investment property in the sense of this will be like our first home that we buy. Books like 1,000 to 1 million, where they talk about buy your first house, live in it, and then get equity and buy another one. We're thinking down that mindset. Not no more. Like the community, our neighbors, such good friends with all of our neighbors. Like here, I send one of my neighbors, actually, he's a cop, Chad. You're gonna love you, man. Him and his wife actually saved our daughter. She was having a seizure. Let me tell you, as physicians, when it's your kids, when something happens, you just go brain dead.
Panic sets in, you freeze up. Yep.
So I ran out the door in my boxers, and they're putting stuff up for Halloween, and they came running over, and I knew exactly what to do, but like brain dead. And they helped out. I'd stopped breathing for almost about a solid minute. They called friends. Fire and rescue was over within not even 60 seconds. Fire and rescue was there. Everything was fine. But that's the level of community. My neighbor Chris helps us out all the time with any issues with our vehicles or with our dogs, and we'll even get together in the winter and we'll do a bonfire in the front with all the local dads that live on my block just to catch up. So this level of community I didn't have when I was growing up in Southwest Ranches. When I grew up in Southwest Ranches, if your neighbor was over to your house, something was wrong.
Yeah.
Like either your dog got out. I grew up on a horse farm. Your horse got through the fence or something. Like there wasn't community like that. And here, man, we know everybody. Everybody knows us. Everybody knows me with my big truck. Everybody comes over. Hey, Doc, I saw you on YouTube. There's always a banter going on with even the people that walk by. They all know us. We always talk. And now it's like it just became our forever spot.
Yeah, something about the community. It just has that feel. And I have a similar story. I sold my house in Davie, and this was supposed to be transitional. Right around the same time. I think it was 2020-ish, in the midst of COVID. We moved over here, and yeah, we're hooked. We don't want to go anywhere. We're just plugged in here, and we're happy where we're at right now, and it's fantastic.
Like when you watch those old movies from back in the day, you see this group of people in the community before cell phones, before distraction. You see everybody sit there together, and they sit outside on the weekends, watch the kids run around, and it's not like that as much anymore, but there's still that constant connection. Me and our neighbors were always sending each other texts. That cop I was talking about, I sent him things about smoking meat all day long. And on last Saturday, he walked up and he was like, just got a new smoker.
Love it.
Brisket. I was like, I'm cooking a picanha. Here, you got to try this picanha. All right, we got to go back to our families. Each of us got people over, but it's good to have your meat. My wife, you guys are crazy.
No way, man. You need to let me know next time you guys are smoking a brisket out there. I got to come by and sample the fare.
Yeah, man. And now he's like sending me these links on this one company where if you buy their grill, $750, but if you buy the grill, they give you 5 grills broken up within X 25 years. Every 5 years, they send you a new one. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Oh, man. That sounds a little questionable. He's like, don't worry, I bought one. I'll give you mine after 5 years. Like, all right. I'll give you meat.
Interesting stuff. Before we wrap this one up, why don't you share, you're chock full of wisdom, I can see. Why don't you share with our listeners, it could be, I guess, one thing you'd like them to know. It could be about your business, or it could just be a piece of a nugget of wisdom, some life lesson, just something, what comes to mind that you want to share with folks.
You know what? I think usually is where somebody would put their like the little ploy for their business and everything. I just want to say, man, I want to be thankful for the Cooper City community. They have been super grateful with us. From the fire department and the police officers helped me with my family when I've had emergencies because my daughter's gone to the emergency to Memorial. I've had the ambulance in front of our house about 5 times with them growing up. So I really want to thank the community because, man, the response, the way they give way. Not in every community do you watch a fire department come out and everybody stop and actually give way. If you grew up and you go down to Hialeah, a police officer can try to cut the crowd, nobody moves. A ambulance is trying to save someone's life, nobody moves or gives way because it's all about them. Yeah. And the community really stand up for themselves. When you see other neighbors helping each other when they're preparing for a hurricane or things like that, Cooper City, don't give up on that, man. Don't give up on your fellow neighbor, and let's bring the community vibe back and let's show people how they should be.
I love it. I love it. Isn't it wild how when you take the focus off yourself and you just focus on others, magical things start to happen in your life?
That's how
we're wired as human beings to be self-centered and self-driven.
Yeah.
And it's hard to detach from that. But when you truly when you're having a tough time with something, if you go and try to help somebody else with something, it naturally just makes you feel better. And that's one of the things that's so great about our community.
And some people, like, they hear that and they see that and they're like, what are they selling? What do they want? Mm-hmm. But in reality, man, it's like, we just finished up our philanthropic, and we always do every quarter, our team comes together and they pick a case. They pick somebody that we want to help. And we do pro bono services in the office, and we don't publicize this or talk about this because this is something that we do. It's one of our visions for our office. And she was here yesterday. It was the wrap up of a case that took about 3 months to finish. A lot of stuff was done for she can eat, smile, and have this joy. And her family was here. It's like, why do you guys do this? You guys we don't film any of it for social media. If anything, there's a little bit of pictures and stuff like that we'll take, but we don't make this big propaganda out of it. And they're like, why are you doing this? It's because we want to give back. Mm-hmm. We've always done, we used to do for a long time trips to the Dominican with different groups, but it's like, why go so far if there's people here in our community that need the help? We do it just because that's the beauty of giving back and the care. And if you take care of others, sooner or later, that does come back around.
It always comes back.
With my kids.
Yep. Full circle, my friend.
Full circle.
So for anyone out there that's listening that is looking for a good dentist, maybe they're not comfortable where they're at, maybe something you said throughout this conversation resonated with them, what is the best way for them to reach out to you or to learn more? Maybe share your website, your contact information. Let us know how we can get in touch.
Yeah, easiest thing, look up Midtown Dental Studio, Florida, or Midtown Dental Studio Plantation on Google. You'll see us pop up right away, almost 800 Google reviews. And we're in Plantation. The number is 954-791-7172. We're here to help. Anything you need, anything whatsoever, we're here to help out.
Perfect. And we will, of course, drop some links in the description below to all of your contact information so folks out there can connect if they'd like. David, pleasure having you on the show, brother. It was nice having this opportunity to dig in and get to know a little bit more about you. So thanks for joining us.
Definitely, Jeremy. Have yourself a wonderful day. Take care, community.
Yep, you too, brother. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we will catch you all next time on the next episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Everyone, take care.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast, Cooper City. To nominate your favorite local business to be featured on the show, go to gnpcoopercity.com. That's gnpcoopercity.com, or call 954-231-3170.